First of all, let me thank all of you for taking time to come and visit with us and let us know what's on your mind and what's going on back home, because I can tell you, sometimes we get disconnected here and they get disjointed. To Harold and to all of the President International Association of Firefighters, God bless you. Thank you for what you do every day. To Ed Kelly, General Secretary, to Brian Jones of the Professional Firefighters of West Virginia, and to all my West Virginia firefighters are here. Were you out there? We got some West Virginians? There we go. Next of all, Jan Rader. I don't know if you watched anything or heard about the Oscars last night, but Jan Rader, the fire chief of Huntington, West Virginia, was up for an Oscar for the movie. She did a documentary on heroin. And so many times people forget what you all do every day in saving lives, not just from fires, but from basically the overdose, the epidemic we have all over this country. Well, Jan was up. I think she got robbed, and we're going to see if we can correct that or not. I know that Tim's talking about an awful lot of things that's going on. I want to go over some things that just make common sense, and it's going to be you all on the front line. But first of all, I talk to children all over the state. I get to go all over the state of West Virginia, all over the country sometimes, and talking to young people. And I tell them, I said, when you see a person in uniform, stop and thank them. Think of what they do every day when they put that uniform on. They're not running away from danger. They're going to run into danger. They're going to there to protect you. They're going to sacrifice, if they need to, their own safety for your safety. It's something pretty special. It's not just a paycheck. It's a calling. And kids have to understand this. They have no sense of what goes on and how we have the different services we have throughout the country. When I'm in talking to kids, I always ask them, I said, what'd you do for your country today? And they look at me like, I'm crazy or something. I said, what'd you do for your country today? And they said, why would you ask that? And I said, well, I'm sure when you own things, you have possessions, you take care of them. You do something every day to take care of something that you cherish and possess. This is your government. This is your country. What'd you do for it? Did you go visit a homeless shelter? Did you go to a food bank? Did you do anything? Helping hand to somebody? Just a kind gesture? We've got to get people understanding who this great country is and why we're the hope of the world. Why everyone around the world basically counts on the United States of America. Because there's not another country that will take our place. There's not another country can step up and do what we do. Have the humanity and the concern for citizens, human rights, dignity, trying to create freedom wherever oppression may be. We talk about this, and it's something inherent, and I always said we're all a product of our environment. When you think when you came from and who influenced your life, I got to start back clear to Farmington, West Virginia. If you ever look and if you find it on the map, it's a little dot there right by Fairmont and close to Morgantown, North Central. But it's a town of 300 to 400 people on a good day when I was growing up. My grandfather, an immigrant from Italy, and I have another grandfather, an immigrant from Czechoslovakia, so I'm all Eastern European. They came to this country and worked in the coal fields, and they both started little grocery stores. But my grandfather from Italy, Papa Joe, Papa started in 9 years of age. He had a mule and worked in the coal fields down at Jamison No. 8 mine. Papa would always tell me the story. He said, Joe, the mule was more important than I was, had more value than I had. He said, but I had to produce. So he worked. He went to fourth grade, and after fourth grade, he dropped out 9 years of age and started working. By the time he was 27 years old, he said he was working at the old song, Oh My Soul to the Company Store. He never saw a paycheck. All he saw was script. All he saw was script, and he would go to this company store, and whatever would be there, and whatever was deficiency, he would owe it, and it would roll over. Never could get ahead. My grandmother was pregnant with her fifth child, my Uncle A. James, and there was four. My dad was the oldest. They remember on Christmas Eve, 1927, the Yellow Dogs came and threw him out of their house because they said my grandfather was a union organizer. The only thing Papa was organizing for is a fair paycheck. Somehow he could take care of these 5 children. That's all he organized for. That's all he wanted. And they threw him out. Everything they owned was thrown in the middle of the street Christmas Eve, 1927. So when you think where our beginnings and who we are and why we feel the way we do, I've had people said, why are you a Democrat? And other people might say, why are you a Republican or why are you an independent? I don't know. I really don't know. Only thing I know is we have a heart for people. I've said this as far as where I come from. This is the honest to God truth. I never knew a Republican growing up. I never knew anyone ever said they were Republican, but it didn't bother me because, these were all good people. But the people I saw were people getting up and they would help a neighbor. If someone got hurt in the mine and couldn't work and they were disabled, they would take care of the wife and the children until he got back on his feet. If they lost a person in the mine, they would take care of that family. They picked up and took care of each other. And everybody had to work. There was no loafers. So my grandfather then thought we needed a volunteer fire department. So he starts the volunteer fire department in Farmington because he thought he should give something back and it needed to be protected. My dad became mayor and thought we needed a stoplight in Farmington. My dad put a stoplight up and we had two wrecks in one day. Took the stoplight down, he got defeated the next time he ran. I learned politics at a very young age. Don't piss off the people. But the bottom line is listen to the people all the time. So my grandmother, one-woman social worker, Mama Kay, everybody loved Mama Kay. She didn't have much, but what she had she shared. But she made all of us, there was 20 little grandchildren lived within one little square area. And we were all like brothers and sisters. But she made all of us cognizant of that we were blessed. And so many people were not blessed. And there was people, we lived by the railroad tracks between the creek and the railroad tracks. So she was always, when she heard the whistle coming through in the train, she was always concerned we'd be on the tracks. But we knew there was an awful lot of people riding the rails back in the 50s. And they knew exactly where to jump off at Mama Kay's. She had 3 rules, so I grew up with rules. She couldn't drink, couldn't cuss, and you had to work. That was pretty simple. Not too hard. Couldn't drink, couldn't cuss, had to work. So we had all kind of characters coming through our home. And my grandmother had the basement. She made us all clean and whitewash the basement. So people would have a decent place with dignity and respect that they could enjoy. But then they get on a toot again. And all of you old enough to know what a toot means, they'd get back on the bottle. And away they'd go for 6 months or 6 weeks. We'd lose them. They'd come back. We had Peg Leg Peggy, Wheelbarrow Willie. You name it, we had it. And they were the greatest characters. So I look at all of that as a building. Then I come and I get involved in the political process in West Virginia. I become House of Delegates in 82. Then I was State Senate in 86. I ran for governor in 96, got defeated, and thought, well, I've done everything I could. And somehow I got back involved in 2000, Secretary of State, become governor in 2004, got reelected in 2008. Bob Byrd dies in 2010. I've got to make a decision. State's in great shape. We were moving in the right direction, so I thought, well, maybe I can go to Washington. Maybe I can help a little bit. Well, lo and behold, who would have ever thought that there would have been this much dysfunction and this much distrust and this much misdirection as far as this country was going? I never knew a Republican that was my enemy. They were always my friends. I worked with them. I brought people together. I used to do things, when I was in the governor of West Virginia, I would go, and we had Democrat-controlled legislature on both the House and the Senate, and I was the Democrat governor. We'd sit down and work on it, but I always was cognizant of my Republican friends, and I would tell them, guys, I need you to help me on this. This is going to be great for the state. And they said, Joe, we just can't do that. And I said, well, listen, I need you to help. And I said, this is what it would do for the state. And they said, I know, but it's not where we are. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. If you'll help us on this issue, next week I'll say something crazy so you can just kick the living crap out of me. And they said, really? And I said, sure. I said, that's how you get things done. So sure enough, they would vote for what I needed. I'd say something as crazy as hell, and I mean they would kick the living crap out of me. But we understood each other. We knew how to get things done. And we moved forward because we put our state first. I come to Washington, I'm thinking, well, this is the same scenario. It should work the same. So I'm looking and saying, okay, and we have all the stuff that we're working with today. I'll go through the different issues and tell you how simple it would be to fix it and how stupid it is to fight over what we're fighting over. But anyway, it doesn't work that way here. With Citizens United, all the outside money, they're attacking you every way in every place you move. They're attacking every union, every working person. They're attacking every pension, everything you've worked for. They're attacking a good wage. They're thinking everything is the almighty dollar from the standpoint of business got to do this, business got to do that. We passed a tax bill. I did not vote for this tax bill, and I'll tell you why I couldn't vote for this tax bill. When it came down to it, I thought we needed to reduce our corporate tax. I was willing to go from 35 to 25. I was willing to work and bring people back together, but I wanted to put basically the permanent cuts for the working person. I was at the White House a month before they ran the bill. The president looked at me and he said, hey, Joe, he says, this is not going to be a tax cut for the rich and the wealthy like me. And I said, Mr. President, that's going to be great. It'll work because the working person is what got left behind the last 2 decades. They've gotten hardly anything. They're the ones that need the permanent tax breaks. They're the ones that need the ability to climb above and have their increase as far as their wages and income rise. He says, you're right. And I said, okay, well, guess what? Everything but that happened. We had never in the history of the United States of America ever started out with a tax reform assuming we would have more debt to the nation. Never once. You can go back through history. Go back to Ronald Reagan, 1986. Ronald Reagan put a bill out in 1986, a major tax overhaul. It was revenue neutral. And then guess what happened? Even being revenue neutral in 1986, by 1991, 92, you remember George H. Bush saying, read my lips, no new taxes? He paid the supreme price. He lost a re-election bid for the United States president because he had to make changes because the market changed. This bill we have right in front of us right now starts out assuming there will be $1.5 trillion of new debt. $1.5 trillion of new debt. Now, I got to tell you, everyone's going to get something. This is going to be a sugar high for a lot of people. But the average working person gets a very temporary tax. The people that need it the least get the most, and it's permanent. Makes no sense. Made no sense. And on top of that, to add insult to injury, they said, we're going to repeal the mandate. Now, the private insurance market's messed up. We have a fix for it. We've had a fix for 2 months. It's been sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk. 12 Democrats and 12 Republicans have worked on this bill. It's ready to be passed immediately. It'll fix the private market. It'll reduce the private rates of insurance 15 to 20% overnight. Won't let it come to the floor. Won't let it come to the floor. It's unbelievable. But they used it and wedged it within the tax bill and did away with the repeal of the mandate, which is going to unravel the markets. And the president said, you know, we finally got rid of Obamacare. Well, you start unraveling it, whether you like it or not, the bottom line is that's 6%, that's 1/6 of your economy in the United States of America. Health care, you better fix it. You don't play games with it. So we're still trying on that. But that's what they did. And I said, you put ourselves in a situation, we're going to have $1.5 to $2 trillion of more debt to already a $20 trillion debt, which your kids can't cash. We've written checks your kids can't cash. It's ridiculous. So I saw that. I saw the health care thing we could have fixed, didn't want to fix. Now we're talking about gun issues. I come from West Virginia. I'm talking to a person in the legislature, a friend of mine in the Senate, and he says, hey, Joe, I grew up in New York, and I didn't know, growing up, I didn't know a person owned a gun. I said, hell, I grew up in Farmington. I didn't know anybody didn't have one. I said, we all have guns. It's a gun culture we come from. But let me tell you about the guns and the gun people I know. A law-abiding gun owner that was trained and taught right by either their parents or peers within the community you came from, you don't sell your gun to a stranger. You don't sell your gun to a criminal. You don't sell your gun to someone who's mentally unstable. You don't even give your gun to a family member that's not worthy of it, that's not responsible. This is who we are. I said, you can't assume just because I own a gun that I'm going to do something wrong. I'm going to commit a crime. I looked at one of my fellow senators and I said, you know what? You're against all this. You want to take everything away. I just saw you got out of the car and the speedometer said 140. When's the last time you went 140? I said, I don't think you're going to do something wrong with the car. I don't think you're going to harm anybody. I don't think you're going to drive 140 miles an hour, but you bought it. I said, you have to assume we're going to do the right thing. But I said, the thing that I'm telling you, this problem we have in America right now, when Al-Qaeda, when ISIS, when the Taliban get on the terrorist internet and they said, if you want to do harm to Americans, go down to the gun show. Go to the gun show. Because if you're not a licensed dealer at a gun show and you're just out selling guns, you can go and sell a gun without any background check. You don't have any idea who that person is. They're on the internet. So I'm thinking, that's common sense. We'll just write a bill that fixes the loopholes, that changes the openness to where anybody can walk in at a commercial transaction, even though you don't know them. And I said, we got to change that. Oh, my God. Then there was millions of dollars spent against me, saying Manchin wants to take your guns away. Well, hell, I'll defend your Second Amendment rights more than anything else, but I'll defend your children, too, to make sure terrorists and criminals and all the people that shouldn't have a gun doesn't get one. These are things we're trying to do as common sense, but you all have to speak up. You're respected in your community, every one of you all. For what you do every day, people are looking to you basically as the safeguard that they have in their community, in their home area. If there's a problem, they're going to call you. When there's danger, they know you're going to be there. That's who you are. You're the leaders, whether you want to be or not, whether you think you are or not, you are. So take that role up. Then we're down to the situation now, immigration. Now, I don't have, I'm the least diverse state in the nation, so I don't have a dog in this fight. I have nobody coming to me about DACA and Dreamers and this and that. Just don't have that many in my state. But think about this. The average child was 6 years of age when they came to this country, unbeknownst to them. The parents brought him here. The parents committed and broke the law. They bring him here. These kids have been here. They don't know any other country. These were babies. That's all they know. Can't speak another language. They're in our military. They're in our schools. They're everywhere. So what do? Well, you know, out of just the human element, you don't say, okay, we're throwing them all out in March today. Today's the day, the deadline. So we're trying to find a fix. You know what we got hung up over? You know what got hung up while we didn't do anything on DACA or Dreamers? Because of this. See if this makes sense to you. The parents committed the crime. So the parents have got to leave. Now the kid can stay because these kids are 20, 25 years of age, 18, 20, but the parents got to go. I said, we talk about family reunification. I don't think that's reunifying a family, making the parents go back where they came from. Paying a fine, yes. So then we come up with a compromise. You know what the compromise was? Parents can never be a citizen of the United States of America. They can get a work permit and stay here. Every 3 years get reevaluated, but can't become. That seemed like a fair process to go through. Couldn't get that done. So now we're in no man's land. Can you imagine today if the ICE people, all of our people with our immigration, go to all of our military bases and start rounding up kids who do not have legal, but they're fighting, they're willing to die, they have a uniform on? Can you imagine if they go to some of the police, some of the firefighters, and say, okay, you're going today? It just doesn't make any sense at all. How do we become so divided? How did we become so divided? I have no clue, and I never would have expected this at all. The opiate epidemic. Can you believe what's going on? There's not one of you in this room right now, not one of you, that doesn't know someone in your immediate family, extended family, or close friend that hasn't been affected in some form of legal or illegal drugs. What happened to us? How do we become so addicted? We use 80 to 90% of all the opiates produced in the world. 4% of the world population is in the United States of America, and we're consuming all these drugs. Pain's it's not that much more severe than it was growing up, and now all of a sudden, we can't make it through the day without it. This has got to change. This is going to take a whole generation away from us. Jan Rader, the lady I talked to at the beginning of this speech, was a lady that basically goes on runs every day. She is the fire chief of the Huntington Fire Department. She is the head lady. She runs the place. What an unbelievable person she is. She goes and she saved hundreds and hundreds of lives. Unbelievable. And this is what she's expected to do. But she's saying something's got to change culturally. I've got a bill out right now. We've got people out there that basically can't get treatment. I've got a cousin who's a judge, a federal judge. You know what he said? He said, hey, Joe, I've got kids, people from all walks of life that I put in jail every day because of the crimes they've committed. But I've got, not one time have I ever been told, hey, Judge Alloy, I'm sorry, we don't have a cell for that prisoner. They've always found a jail cell to put somebody in. But he says if it happens one time, it happens 10 times a day. I get a person who didn't commit a violent crime, no weapons, no violence, who didn't commit a sexual crime, but basically committed larceny. They were stealing to support their habit. And they come to me and they say, Judge, this is a person we recommend do not be put in jail, should be put on home confinement and mandatory drug treatment in a treatment center. If it happens one time a day, it happens 10 times a day. Judge, thank you for, or they'll say, this is what we recommend. But Judge, we don't have any treatment centers to put them in. We have no place to put these people. So they end up putting them in jail. This is what we're doing. This is how we're treating it. So I said, okay, we have to find a treatment. Tell me if this makes sense to y'all. This is not from the pharmaceutical companies that do so much good and bring so many products to the market that help so many people. This is not one of them. This is strictly a business model, a business plan they have. So I've said the people that's causing the problem, manufacturing all the pills, I have one little town, 392 people live in Kermit, West Virginia, Mingo County. 4 million pills were sent in 2 years. 4 million pills to less than 400 people. Now, you tell me that makes sense. You tell me they're trying to heal them? I think they were trying to kill them. So I've said, for every milligram that you produce, you'll pay 1 penny per milligram for every pill. I want a production fee of 1 penny. Just 1 penny is all I want. And that'll all go towards a fee, basically, for treatment. Truly treatment to get people healed. Can't get one Republican to sign on the bill. Not one. They said, well, that's a new tax. I said, that's not a new tax. I said, hell, you didn't hesitate a second to put a tax on cigarettes. You didn't hesitate a second to put a tax on alcohol. This is killing more than both of them put together, and you won't do a thing? You're afraid you're going to lose the vote? And I said, I'll come campaign with you against a Democrat if you'll go ahead and vote for it. Just do it. You know how much that 1 penny produces a year? Can you believe this? $2 billion with a B. $2 billion, that 1 penny. That's how addicted we are. These are things we've got to do. I got nobody stepping forward. No one taking responsibility. Now, here it is. I've got the darndest relationship with the President of the United States. Don't even ask me how. I don't know how. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's a little shaky. But you never know. But at least I can talk to him, and we've had good conversations. And I've said this, and I go back home, and I'll say to all of you, this is the greatest country on earth because we have the rule of law. We have democracy. We have 3 branches of government. We have checks and balances. Article 1 and Article 2 of the Constitution, basically separation of powers. You have the executive branch and you have the legislative branch. We're not supposed to be all cozy. We're supposed to be basically check and balance. How can we help make something better? If we think something's right, support it. If you think something needs to be repaired, try to fix it. Just don't fall in line. That's the checks and balances that go on our process. Tim was in from the House. We have a bicameral system. The House works on simple majority. The Senate works on, basically, bipartisanship. We have to have 60. And that was basically our founding fathers. George Washington said, they asked him, why are you want a bicameral? Why not just like Parliament would work? Why would you want bicameral, just one body? He says, because the House will work, and think of the House as a hot, hot, hot cup of tea. And it's so darn hot you can't drink it. Because they're going to vote on something on party lines. If you have 218 Democrats or 218 Republicans, you're going to get whatever they want. They don't need one Democrat or they don't need one Republican, depending on who the majority is. But when it goes to the Senate, that's a different story. He says, so I use the House as the hot cup of tea, and I use the Senate as a saucer that catches the hot tea, that cools it off so you can drink it. Make it work. Tone it down. Make sure everyone's points of view. That's what we're trying to do, and it's not what you're seeing now. This country has lined up and divided itself more than I've ever seen. If you're a D, you're supposed to hate every R. If you're an R, you're supposed to hate every D. It's whose team are you on? I'm on America's team. I'm not on a Democrat or Republican team. I'm on a team for this country. And I think most Americans want that. They want us to work together. They expect us to work together. That's how we become the nation we are. And too few people are willing to stand up. So the president said to me one day, he said, hey, Joe, he said, I bet you if I'd have pushed you hard enough, you'd have been against health care. You'd have repealed it. And I said, no, I wouldn't, Mr. President. No, I would not have. I said, there's a fix there. If I think we can repair and fix something, make it better, that's what it's about. It's not about politics. So we've had our moments back and forth. The thing about it that I will say to this, you all are the catalyst that brings us together. There's not a response that you go on. You don't ask, is that a Democrat or Republican House? Is that a Democrat or Republican in need of my services? Is it a Democrat or Republican that could be in jeopardy? I don't think that's what, when the call comes in, it's not what you're looking for. You're looking for, okay, I'm going. So I've always said this, our first responders, military, are the glue that holds this country together. Without you, we're dead. Without you keeping this political fray to the point to where we're looking at what job are you there to do? What is your service? What are people depending on? And they don't look at you as being political. They don't look at you as making a decision. Are you going to come help me? Are you going to be there when I need you? They know you will be. And that's what America is all about, and that's what we've lost so much in this country today. But it goes on and on and on. And the only thing I can tell you, we're trying to put a little bit of humor back in this process, and it's so difficult. I was at the Gridiron Dinner Saturday night. I don't know if you saw any of that on television. It was something. But that Gridiron Dinner, it's kind of in jest. The media, all the people in the media are able now to take shots at all the politicians. So they're up there doing their skits back and forth and everything. And it gets quite entertaining. And it can get cutting sometimes, and people can take it, but in the wrong manner. This was a very good evening that night. The president was there. It was the first time President Trump has been there. He didn't go last year. He said he wanted to see for himself if it was really fake news or not, whether they'd show up or not. And they did, and they roasted him pretty good, and he roasted back, which is the give and take that should be there. I think that I would ask one thing from all of you. Everybody comes to you for your support because they know that people look up to you. So whether it's a Democrat or Republican, we want the firefighters' support. Harold, you know that. It's coveted. It's coveted. The bottom line is you should be asking them what they're going to do. Are they going to step up above the fray of the politics that basically is destroying this country? Are they going to do what's right? Now, if you're not going to stand up for a working person, if you're against a working wage, if you're against a pension plan, if you're against a person being able to take care of their family and the benefit packages that come with it, and you think the market's going to take all this, I'm sadly mistaken. We have got to stand up. I've got miners. The miners in West Virginia, United Mine Workers of America, they work for their pensions. They negotiated for the pensions. It's the only union group that basically, that Harry Truman intervened with to make sure their pensions was written into a piece of legislation that said in 1946 forward, from every ton of coal, there would be a certain amount of the price of that coal that went in towards their pension and their health care. Well, guess what? Here comes the 80s, and then we have all these bankruptcies. The bankruptcy laws in America right now put basically the human being on the back of the line. Financial institutions at the front of the line, they get it all, we get nothing on the back. That has to be changed. I've had miners who basically did not take home a pay, that they could have taken home more pay to take care of their family because they were paying for their health care and paying for their pensions. And now they're saying it's all wiped out and you're going to lose it all. And I said, that ain't going to happen. That is not going to happen. And we've been fighting and fighting and fighting. We got their health care done this past year, and we're going to get the pensions done before the end of this year. And all the pensions that we have out there have to be protected. And right now they're not. They're out there basically at the mercy of the market. And it's something that needs to be changed. But we're going to continue to fight. And the only thing I can ask from you all is to stand tall. Be ready to fight. Be ready to speak up. People listen. People respect what you have to say because people know that you're there for them. They know that you're willing to make a sacrifice. And anybody that puts a uniform on, any first responder, any firefighter in America that's willing to say, listen, I'm there for you, I'll guarantee you, when you ask them, they'll do it. They'll listen. And your voice is stronger and louder than ever before. And it's more needed now than ever before. And for people to be quiet, God help us all. Shame on us if we don't open up and say something. This is a great country, and I've said, the hope of the world, we are it. There's nobody else can do what we do in this great country of ours. There's not another country on earth that can do what we do. And the world depends on us. And everyone wonders, when you see all the turmoil going on, whether it be North Korea, whether it be China, whether it be Russia, this is all for real. China has a plan by 2050. China wants to be the superpower of the world. They're not backing off of it. They're on course. They're going for it. Everything we did after World War II, they're right on course. They're following us. They got the money to do it. Russia doesn't. Russia will create havoc with all the weapons they still have and basically with their cyber attacks that they have. But China's the only one that can threaten us. And we're very much concerned about that. North Korea, as the president said, little rocket man, I'm not sure. But I can tell you one thing, he's not crazy. He's on a mission, and he knows one thing. If he has a nuclear weapon, he's a force to be reckoned with. Without a nuclear weapon, his life would be in jeopardy, and he's not giving that up easily. That we do know for sure. So with that being said, I can only tell you that Harold and this entire organization has been a friend of mine, and they've been there when I've needed them, and I hope that they always know I'll be there when they need me. But it's just a basic fairness. It's basic who you are. When you think of what you put back in the economy, when you think of what you put back in your community, when you think of what you put back in the families who depend on you, when you think of the comfort that you give every person that basically you serve, and all those who see you and the sacrifices you make, that's why we are what we are, and that's who we are. And that's why we're the hope of the world. So I say thank you. God bless each and every one of you for what you do every day. Thank you. The firefighters of America, all of you. We appreciate it. Respect you.